Hello all, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about a really important topic, that is inversion of control. Okay, what is the inversion of control, and why we need to take care of this? Okay, let's jump into the code. Already we are following the series like callback hell. Okay, if you are depend on callbacks for asynchronous calls which are dependent on each other like this. Suppose if task 2 is depend on the result of task 1 and task 3 depends on results of task 2, and in that, if these are asynchronous calls, so it's going to be a callback hell and pyramid of doom, right? You have seen the pyramid of doom, right? So this is horizontally growing, it's going to be very problematic. So this is the callback hell and the pyramid of doom. And we have another problem. Okay, if you don't use properly the callbacks, it's going to be, it will lead another big problem. That is, we will lose the control on our code. Okay, how we will lose the control on code? Let me explain. Suppose if you see you have a Google Map API. Suppose Google Maps or Google Analytics or any third party API. So that means here, who is providing that API? Suppose Google team is providing, suppose Google team or Google developers are providing APIs. That means API providers and our team. So we are our SVGI team. Suppose if you are building a project, we if we use the Google APIs, third party APIs, at the time we are consumers. We are consumers. Okay, fine. So there is no problem so far. So suppose I'm just taking one task. The function, any task, some task, some, it will depend on asynchronous things. Some task, and if I invoke this task, task one, and just imagine in this task one, we are calling the Google API like API dot get. Okay, and you are passing some http colon www dot googlemaps.com, some information, and you're passing some value, some ID kind of thing. Okay, suppose imagine this is the just a simple callback. Okay, just imagine this callback, and once it executed, and it will return some value. Okay, it will return some value. Suppose, for example, var ID. So that ID is very important. Like suppose product ID. Okay, order ID, whatever it is. Okay, this is the Google API, right? Suppose maybe location ID, location details. So based on that, if you got the location ID and you are going to take some action. So for that action, you are passing a callback. Okay, this is the callback function. Something, this is like a task 2. Okay, task 2, and here you can say the task 2 or callback. Simply, I'm just giving a good name like callback. So this callback, so you're writing some if and else condition. If, okay, if LID triple equal to some expected value, some 101 something, you will invoke this callback function. That is the fantastic thing. So for no problem. So if you're just passing a callback function, once you call the REST API, and once you got the result, because if it is a sequential, if it doesn't take too much time, okay. But so see, JavaScript doesn't wait for anyone. So whenever you are invoking this, it will get the undefined, and undefined triple equal to something. You will never execute this one. So that's why what we will do normally. Understood? Suppose if it is asynchronous call, whenever you are invoking this and you are expecting some value, at the time once it executed, it will just send a request to the server. We don't know when it will bring the result. Okay, we are expecting 1011, but At the time of executing, it will be undefined, and immediately undefined triple is equal to 10111. It is never happen, so that it will exit. So that what we will do naturally. So we'll pass this callback function as an argument to this callback function. Suppose here, for example, I'm testing API.get, but normally whatever the Google APIs, whatever implemented already, they are using a promises. Suppose, for example, some API method, so that because it's not built on top of promises. So at the time, if you are passing this value, okay, and you are passing this callback function as an argument to the API method, because we don't know when it is going to execute. So now what we are doing, we are giving our callback function to API method, which is developed by the Google API without using a promises. Okay, we are talking about without promises. So then what will happen? We are giving our callback function and the control to third-party API. That is a dangerous. We don't know, right? Whether he will execute our callback function, or he will just delete our callback function, or while implementing this API method, while doing some logic, if we found some errors, okay, he will throw error details. We don't know whether he will maintain all the error handling properly or not. So that means we should not give a control of our callback function to a third party APIs or callbacks. So if you give a control to the another callback function, we don't know what is happening in that. So eventually we will lose control on our callback functions. Okay, our logic. So that is called losing inversion of control. So whenever we are building an application, or whenever you're writing the code, the developer, okay, this is API providers are different. This here API provider, who is API provider? Google team. Who is API consumer? We are SVG team. So we should have a proper trust, okay, in between API provider and API consumer. That will happen with the help of promises. So if you deal with normal callback functions and we don't know what is happening, so we need some proper result, right? So what is happening, we need control, so then only we can take some action on the next callback or something. So if you lose the control, that is the biggest problem. So now I hope you guys understood. Only thing is, if you give your callback function to any third party API, eventually we are losing the control. That's called we are not able to achieve inversion of control. So we should take the control as a developer, as a API user. We should have a control on the results and our callback function, our logic. So if you want to achieve that, so we are already have a great techniques, that is a promises. If we use promises, we will get the control on inversion of control, and we are going to avoid the callback hell and pyramid of doom. Okay, what is pyramid of doom and callback hell? So if you see, if you just do a task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4 and task 5, which are asynchronous calls and which are dependent on each other, so it's going to be very difficult to write the logic. So that is callback hell. So here we have the two problems. One is callback hell and there is a chance of losing the inversion of control. So to avoid those two things, what we need to do, so from now onwards, we need to learn promises, and we should able to handle asynchronous calls and all those things easily, means easily. So this is a super technology, super concept in JavaScript, so that we are going to talk in next video. Okay, so far we have understood what is a callback function, what is a callback hell, and what is a pyramid of doom. Of course, pyramid of doom and callback hell are both the same, and we understand inversion of control. Okay, so and if you need, so just go to some documentation. So here I will just add this in a description. So if you see, this is really awesome, so please start reading the documentation. So promises are a form of inversion of control. That means promises have is providing that control to a developer and the trust between the API implementer. So API implementer does not control when the callback gets called. Instead, the job of maintaining the callback queue and the deciding when to call the callbacks is delegated to the promise implementation. And both the API user and API developer automatically get strong semantic guarantees. No need to worry about these definitions. Of course, this is very superb thing, and unless until we take then some example, it's very difficult to understand. So to next session, we are going to understand what is promise and how to handle situations with the help of promises. And after that, we are going to talk about super important concepts. This is enough for this video, and see you in the next video. Bye bye. If you have any question, please drop me a comment so that definitely I will create another video.